Salutations to the Carbondale contingent. Welcome once again. Nice to be on Earth, by golly. Just a couple of minutes early. Just wanted to say hi to you lovely folks. If, as we go along, if anyone has any questions, if they just want to type it in, I'd be happy to answer questions. Or we can think about maybe just emailing some to me and I can answer them. Welcome, my fine feathered friends. Feathered because we're all angels, and your feathers are starting to show. Nice to have you back for live stream meditation. Tonight we're going to do a little talking about the evolution of the star tetrahedron and a little bit of its relationship to emotions, clearing, and enlightenment. So we'll jump right in. I first began my meditation practice because of quite a bit of stress and really kind of illness within the physical body, of course, many years ago. And I started out with transcendental meditation. It was recommended to me by a doctor, quite interestingly enough. And as I began the process, it was because I was so stressed out that transcendental meditation, it began to calm the mind. It uses a mantra, and as one quietly recites the mantra over and over, and kind of watches the mantra drift off into silence, into the peace. As you keep doing that, the mind begins to be more trained, it begins to be more focused. And so it was quite wonderful because within probably a month or two, I found my mind becoming much more silent. Before that, it simply chattered and talked and dialogued with me and anyone else around it, thought it was kind of the ruler. So it was a real blessing when the mind began to be trained to be a silent instrument. And that's kind of one of the very first beginnings in meditation practice, beginning to train the mind to be our instrument. For most people, of course, the mind simply dialogues at will. It chatters incessantly within, judging, criticizing, thinking about what's been going on, what I might be doing tomorrow, on and on ad infinitum. And so the silent mind is quite a blessing. After a couple of years of transcendental meditation, being quite focused with the practice, even going to quite a few too-long week retreats and really honing and refining the ability to hold the mind silent. That's when my perceptions began to change quite dramatically. And I began to notice that most of the people who were in the program, they had much light, if you will, from about the diaphragm up. And it was mostly white light. And it was a sense of the mind is being silent and they're connecting to spirit, but it's something that's taking people up and out to meet it. And I didn't really know any better, so it was a fine practice. But that was a little bit confusing to me when I observed that just from the diaphragm up. And that's when my practice began to change. And I came across in my studies something along the lines that golden light, it's the mystical marriage of light and dark, of masculine and feminine, of yin and yang. And so it embraces all polar opposites, and in loving them simply brings them back into union. And so I realized that white light was taking people up and out in their denial of the darkness below the diaphragm, where golden light, as one began to work with it, which I then started working with it, and fortunately I came across grounding because there wasn't, again, much light below the diaphragm. And when I started to ground from the base of the spine, creating a living relationship with Mother Earth for the first time. Before that, most of the spiritual practice around me had been, we're trying to go up and out, we're looking for spirit, we're looking for God, we're looking for source. But as I began to ground, I began to realize that Mother Earth is also source. It's just at a lower vibration. And probably the enlightenment, if you will, that one is seeking is not about leaving and going up and out. It's about literally bringing all that is in and through and creating a unity experience with the earthly realm, because it is also light and source in God, as well as the realm, so to speak, above. And that was quite a revelation. And so as I began to then bring the golden light from above and let it flow down in and through, I noticed within me that it didn't flow very well at all below the diaphragm. And I had a particularly challenging childhood, as many as you probably have. And so I was holding a lot of feelings of great lack of self-worth, of loneliness, quite a bit of anger, shame, pretty much all the emotions you could think of. And as I began to let the golden light rest in that area below the diaphragm, I realized it was literally chock full of all these old emotions from my childhood. But the blessing was, as I allowed the golden light to flow down in and through and touched into an emotion, didn't matter what it was, anger, hatred, worthlessness, sadness, worry, fear, the golden light didn't judge it or criticize it or dislike it. The golden light, which is the light of the soul, the perfect being you are, would simply kind of seep deeper into it. And as it kept moving in and through the emotion, I kind of followed it, not with my mind, so to speak, but with my feeling nature. And as I followed the golden light and let it flow in and through, it always was weaving me further and further back until I found myself as a child. And there was some incident happening where someone was judging or criticizing. Mother and father were in the next room fighting over money and finance, and that anger was seeping through the walls. And this innocent child would simply feel that and go, must be me. That's what they're angry about. There's something wrong with me. And so I literally took on all the emotions, which is what a child does. It doesn't discern that that's something outside of self. From 0 to 7, we simply seep it in and take it on. But as I then allowed the golden light to go in, I could feel myself standing beside the child, and the child recognizing that this was the original divine being that even set it down in the time space. It was the true mother, father that created the childlike in its true essence. My physical mother, father created a physical form, but the soul was the true connection to inner wisdom, love, and light. And as the golden light would then begin to flow into the child, he then would come up to this kind of sunlit radiance and fire and energy moving from the child, feeling acknowledged and delighted to be acknowledged and loved. And with that energy, it began to change the environment around me, just kind of moving everything and everyone out of my space back then that wasn't in love and joy and peace. Didn't hurt anyone nor harm anyone. It was simply a repositioning of energy. And so it was quite wonderful that in my work as a spiritual being, I was able to understand that emotion is really part of the process of really learning and understanding this dimension. And so it was a blessing. I also realized it was the soul I am that created the mother, the father, and all those emotions, because the soul was going to learn from them. It wasn't a random, happening. It was literally a program, a project, if you will, that the soul had created. And as I would embrace the emotion and transmute it back into love and light, I became what I say is almost like the master of darkness. Darkness simply being fear, sadness, grief, shame, blame, frustration, and anger. I no longer judge it or criticize it. I brought love to that which was inside that felt that, and everything came back into light. And so the darkness, if you will, came back into wisdom and love, which then gave me the ability to be within the world, but really not overshadowed by things that were around me. No longer projecting out fear or sadness or grief and meeting it from something around me. So that was a wonderful kind of clearing that took place. With that, I began to realize as the light was flowing deeper and deeper, and there was this loving relationship with Mother Earth, that the earth being also source God and up above being source God, I began to feel, well, there's no place to go. It's all just source. It's all just God, if you will. Source God simply creating multiplicity of vibration, some of light, some of shadow to dance within and through. And it helped me realize that there's only source everywhere present. So it was quite a blessing. And with that, I was no longer then looking for source. I was no longer looking for God. I was no longer looking for something outside of myself. I realized, well, if earth and sky and bird and tree are source, well, then I must be source too. And so I realized, well, source must be within. And so thus began the next evolution in my journey. Realizing that source is within, I thought, well, I bet if I breathe from the back of my heart, because it felt like that was the midpoint between that which is above and below. And it was kind of like on the right is the masculine, on the left is the feminine. Above is Father Sky, below Mother Earth, and that would be then the cross that meets here in the heart. And so I began to breathe in from the back of my heart, and it was like breathing source in and then allowing golden sunlight and peace to emanate out. And I did that for about a month, and it was quite phenomenal. Not really looking for source anymore, but realizing it's already present. And so my belief system, believing that it was present and focusing my attention on the feeling of it from within, so to speak, going out, it became quite dynamic. A lot of marvelous and magnificent changes in the physical form and my health and life around me. It was then the next iteration that I came across some ancient wisdom about the star tetrahedron, that it was probably a sacred symbol that had been from time immemorial, really about the Christ energy. Now, Christ is not a person. It's as we well know, it's a wave form built of consciousness of light that is the jewel, the crystalline jewel of the star tetrahedron. And so I began to feel and realize, well, that's really what's there in the open doorway within the heart. It's a star tetrahedron. And because the upper triangulation of masculine is turning left to right, and the lower triangulation turns right to left, I began to feel that it's really creating this vortice, this doorway. And from my studies from long ago with Alice Bailey and some of her work, I heard about the jewel in the lotus. And I realized that this is the jewel in the lotus. The star tetrahedron opens the sacred doorway, and from out of its source arises forth from inside out. And so this is the practice that we have all been doing together. The next iteration of that was then being within my mind, so to speak, kind of hovering around and imagining and feeling the star tetrahedron turning. And I did that for probably 6, 7 months mostly with you. And as I did that, there was more clarity about seeing it and feeling it, experiencing it. And then about, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I shared with you that there was another feeling around love, that I could just kind of feel myself hovering in love around the star tetrahedron and the love that I was attracting the masculine to turn left to right, and the feeling of profound love was inviting the feminine to move right to left. And so it was no longer before that using power to make it happen, which is nothing wrong with that. That was again part of my iteration in this evolution. But then I moved to love, from out of the focusing of got to make it happen to simply loving it and observing it and attracting it in its movement. And then probably 2 weeks ago, right after our last meditation experience here online, I began to feel myself literally sitting here in this open doorway, the void on one side, and then this dimensional world on the other. So my consciousness is no longer out here moving the star tetrahedron. I sit here in the open doorway. It's like I'm kind of sitting with part of myself in the void and another part of myself in this dimension. And I realize I am both the void, Source God, and I am that which brings it into dimensionality. And as I sit here within the open doorway, I sit quietly and I just watch the star tetrahedron turn. Upper triangulation is moving and lower triangulation is moving, and like an electron it begins to move this way and that way, and the whole thing is then moving dynamically, and I'm just observing it, watching it. But I also know that it is then refracting, reflecting, and remembering what it is I choose to emanate from the open doorway. And so from the open doorway, I feel source arising forth, just like we do in our breath work. But as the sources are rising forth, I'm simply sitting there, then I'm watching that I'm sitting in the middle of, just like the sun. I'm not out here. I'm literally in the middle of the sun, and I'm watching this gigantic streaming of living golden sunlight in front and back, up and down and all around. And I'm just this glowing ball of light, but I'm really sitting in the open doorway. And so it's a very peaceful and a very calm and a very quiet place. But yet, by simply focusing the mind and observing that there's this dynamicness of golden liquid radiance flowing from me, because I believe that and I feel that, and that's been again my process over these last several years with you. It happens quite dynamically. And so it's a whole nother level of the iteration of the star tetrahedron. We use our mind, first of all, as I said, to begin to see it, to feel it, to imagine it. That's part of the process. Nothing wrong with that stage. And then we're at the place where we're now beginning to simply love the movement of it. And now inviting you to begin to feel as you choose to feel it and begin to move to that next iteration, that you're just sitting in this wonderful open doorway, and the void is behind, and all around you, you're just emanating out this beautiful liquid golden light, and you're watching the star tetrahedron turn, and it's refracting and reflecting and remembering liquid golden sunlight pouring out from you. And it's just the same as our breath work that we do. We're simply breathing in the void, and we're observing this magnificent radiance coming from us. And so I'm finding in my meditation that the radiance begins to be stronger and stronger as I'm no longer trying. I'm simply observing and feeling the radiance becoming and seeing it more powerful and more beautiful and more sunlit and glorious. And so it must be, because we know that whatever we focus the mind upon and then we feel, it creates reality. And so this is just how the physical sun shines. It's how literally an atom functions. Everything in creation has at the very center of it a black hole. It's into the void. That black hole is back into the void, and from out of it, source is breathing itself into existence. It's within an atom. It's within the earth. It's within all creation. The sun has this great open doorway. Our galaxy has a great open doorway. And source is breathing from inside out. And source isn't trying, and source isn't pushing. Consciousness is just sitting at the doorway, so to speak, and imagining the magnificence of a galaxy. And so it is. This consciousness that is source is the doorway of the sun. And imagine golden sunlit radiance that can feed the earth and grow everything upon it and nurture humanity who has within them the open doorway that they're finding within the heart. And then they become the golden sunlit beings that then create a vibration around the earth, not trying to change it, not trying to make it different, but just like the sun, shining so brightly that everything grows and changes and becomes renewed. No longer fighting, but simply being in love and being in the light. So that's this marvelous iteration of the star tetrahedron that I wanted to share with you. The other thing, as you're working with your your particular practice, as you go along, if you have questions, I'm always open, of course, to be with you and to respond to those. I respond to a lot of people online who send me questions and ask about their practice or what they've been doing. So I'm always open. So you all have my email, gspring33@gmail, or my website, GarySpringfield.com. So please be in touch. So as I was again saying that one of the important parts of really feeling this movement is the open doorway of breathing. So when we are breathing in, yes, we're breathing in oxygen that again nurtures the cells and the tissues of the body, but more importantly, we're breathing from the open doorway source. As I said, as it reaches then, the open doorway is simply becomes liquid golden light. So let's go ahead and do the breath work. I'll simply take you through the whole guided imagery, feeling. And all you need to do is follow along and keep breathing. Don't stop breathing. We'll lose you for next week's meditation. So sitting comfortably and quietly, let's just simply close the eyes and feel the body relaxing. We like to have the spine nice and straight. The star tetrahedron has a tube of light going down through the center. It's the spinal column around which the star turns. So you can imagine a string at the top of the head gently pulling you up. You're grounded with Mother Earth. And with deep belly breathing, you're breathing from the open doorway within the heart, source, from out of the void. And with the gentle exhale, golden liquid sunlight and peace flows out from all around you. It nurtures and heals every cell and tissue in the body. And you simply breathe, summoning source from the open doorway, I am, to become liquid golden light with the out breath. It is the star tetrahedron that then refracts, reflects, and remembers the sunlight coming from you that becomes magnificent. The Christ wave. And breathing deeply, profoundly. I am the light. Source, God, I am. Feel yourself sitting at the open doorway within the heart. I am the void. I am dimensionality. I breathe that which I am, source. And as I exhale, I bring golden sunlight and peace into this dimension. It's quiet and peaceful sitting at the open doorway. The consciousness I am, feeling the breath from the void in, exhaling golden sunlight and peace. Peaceful at the doorway. I am both void and dimensionality simultaneously. I breathe in the void spirit I am. I breathe out golden sunlight and peace. With effortless ease, I sit at the open doorway I am. As the enlightened Master Jesus said, I am the doorway. All that God is, I am. The breath of spirit, I breathe into this dimension. I am simply a field of consciousness sitting at the open doorway, imagining and observing source arising forth with breath, becoming golden sunlight and peace all around me. I am simply consciousness, bringing source into dimensionality. Peaceful, silent breath. Another couple of deep, peaceful breaths from the doorway. I am a field of consciousness sitting at the doorway, breathing source I am into materiality. This is the office of the Christ. Not a person, but a mechanism of manifestation. I am. And then very easily now, as it feels comfortable, you can begin to allow yourself to slowly come back, recognizing this dimensional world that you co-create. And slowly opening the eyes. Good. Very nice. Quite a feeling of silence and peace everywhere just from that meditation, kind of transcending time space. So I'll take you through the iteration of the star tetrahedron. Once again, as it feels comfortable, you can then begin to feel yourself simply sitting at the open doorway and then observing the movement, the flow of the star tetrahedron around you, and then liquid sunlight and peace are rising forth. So let's simply close the eyes again and feel the body relaxing. Our breath work has created a stillness within. And I simply bring my attention between the eyebrows and drawing a line straight back. Within the approximate center point of the head, I ignite the light. Imagine to image in the light of the great and perfect soul I am. And holding attention here, feel the light increasing, filling the mind, brain with sunlight and peace. I gently bring the light to the heart chakra at the sternum, where I image in the star tetrahedron, the upper triangulation of divine power. We might see it turning left to right. And the lower triangulation of divine feminine love flowing right to left. It opens the sacred doorway within the heart, the jewel in the lotus, into the void. If I choose, I can feel myself sitting at the open doorway, simply observing the movement of the star in its magnificence all around me. And golden sunlight and peace emanating just like the physical sun. I can truly say I am the light. Feel the peace and the silence at the open doorway. I am sitting within the void, observing the star tetrahedron, and from all around me, liquid sunlight and peace streams and flows magnificently into this world. I will join with you, and we will all sit in the open doorway and create radiance. And very easily coming back into dimensional worlds. Once again, thank you for coming and dancing in the light. And we will be back in April. The newsletter gives the full schedule for the meditation. So if you'd like to get a hold of my website and sign up for the newsletter, you could then find out when we're going to actually do it. It's the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month. So once again, thank you, and we will see you next time.